Hi everyone, I'm back for another conspiracy video, and today we've got something new and different planned. For those of you who are new here, my name's Zoe and I like to talk about conspiracy theories and mysteries whilst doing my makeup. For today's video we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories surrounding celebrities who are dead and believed to be alive, and vice versa. So I hope you are all ready for some of the crazy bits of information that I found out about before prepping for this video and doing all the research. I'll be honest, some of them I'd heard about before. They still shock me to this day, like some of the theories that people come up with surrounding these people, but I just thought it would be a really kind of like, part of it will be light-hearted and part of it would be like serious, because we are going to be talking about death and things like that, which leads me on to triggers. Your following triggers will contain death, suicide, drugs, narcotics, alcohol and things like that. So if any of those things offend you, then this may not be the video for you. Consider yourself warned. Right, so let's get into it. So the first person we're going to be talking about today will be Paul McCartney. Now, I've actually spoken to people before and asked them if they knew about this theory, and a lot of people said they actually didn't, which surprised me because it's one of the ones that I knew about. We've got a few of them today, so I'm not just specifically talking about one celebrity, we're going to do multiple in this video. So Paul McCartney. So to most music lovers around the world, Paul McCartney is still a living legend. But according to some people, apparently not. To a minority, he's been dead for more than half a century. This is the notorious Paul is dead urban myth, whose exact origins are still a matter of debate. What we do know for sure is that sometimes in the late 60s, a rumour started going around in university campuses. The Beatle had been killed in a car accident and replaced with a lookalike. Yeah, we've got like body doubles, everything in this video, and for more than one person as well. It's a bit batshit. Then there's the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Arts Club Band imagery featuring Paul wearing an arm patch reading OPD, which allegedly stands for officially pronounced dead. Playing certain Beatles songs backwards was also thought to yield clues that Paul is indeed dead. So there was this DJ by the name of DJ Russ Gibb, and it's thought that he actually started the rumour completely. So he was obviously a DJ, he was a radio host, and he would tell his fans, guys, you need to listen to this track. And the track was Revolution 9 from their White Album. And there's some lyrics in it which literally are repeated, number 9, number 9. And it was theorised, or he said, he told his listeners, that if you played those lyrics back, it sounds like they are singing Turn Me On, Dead Man. And that's where it started. There's more theories, there's like multiple theories stacked up in this one case. So some fans or some like conspirers, whatever, we're going to call them conspirers. I've decided conspirers is a thing. So they basically thought that the CIA put a hit out on not just Paul, but the band itself, like every member. So the reason that these people believed that it was the CIA that was responsible for Paul's death, I'm smiling whilst I'm saying it because I'm like, really? Really? So the reason that they thought that the CIA were responsible and they'd put this hit out on Paul and the band was that they were basically a threat to society. So the reason that people think that it was the CIA who did it is that they wanted to put an end to the band's powerful influence. By this point they were already really, really popular. People just adored them. They were a massive hit. And it's been said that, so I'm going to read this comment, it's speculated that these people, basically the CIA, they were outraged by previously made comments from John Lennon, and that he'd said that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus Christ. So it sparked up a little bit of a debate, and I guess they were worried about anarchy and perhaps if the band wanted to take their influence in a negative way, I guess, like wanted to influence people, but if they were influencing these people, particularly like a younger crowd, it entirely depended on how they used their presence and their popularity. Like obviously if they started using their popularity for like the wrong reasons and kind of conveying the wrong message to the young people and just people in general, that the CIA, you know, they would potentially want to put a stop to that, and it could possibly be that's their reason for believing that they are responsible for Paul's death. Me personally, I don't really get the whole like anarchy thing. So the people that follow this theory, again, they say that the CIA failed at their attempts at completely removing the band, and basically they continued. They brought in a double of just Paul. So the CIA killed off Paul, and they were like, we can't do that, we can't be the Beatles without Paul. They brought in this, what I would call like a doppelganger, like he looked exactly like him, And people say his name was William Campbell, and fans were none the wiser, and they just carried on making their music. They just went about the way that they were, but they just continued, and nobody knew that Paul had gone except for members of the band, and I'm assuming like management. And so whilst we're on the topic of this William Campbell, I'm going to put a picture here. I'm going to put a picture up here of this guy, and if you look at the comparison, I found a website, and people were blown away by one particular detail. And it's not facial. I suppose you could say it's facial. Technically it's head. They were blown away by their earlobes. So the comparison between Paul and this William guy, one of the men, I can't remember which, one of the men had detached earlobes. If you know what detached earlobes are, I have detached earlobes. So they distinctively kind of come away like this. Some people's earlobes are attached. So you don't really have this kind of like distinctive space here. They're attached fully. And that was the thing. That was the thing that tipped the whole thing over, and people go, whoa, like, not same people. This guy, he replaced Paul, this new Paul, look at his earlobes, they're different. I know, earlobes. If you thought that was ridiculous, doppelgangers, replacements, CIA ordering out hits on the star Paul McCartney, do you know who else other people blame? Elvis. Elvis himself. Yep, you heard me. Don't worry, don't wind back and listen to that again. Elvis Presley. Yeah. They blamed him. And the reason they blamed him, these people who follow that theory believe that when the Beatles came over to the US, Elvis had a really hard time with their success. And obviously he had his own career to worry about, he had his own popularity to worry about, and he rubbed shoulders with tops of the US government, basically. And people that came up with this theory have said that he put a hit out on Paul. Just Paul. None of the other members of the band, just Paul. I guess that if it were to be true, let's just say, if for argument's sake this theory is true, if there was a hit put out on the entire band, it would be weird. It would just be downright weird. There'd be fucking millions of conspiracy theories if that was the case. But taking out one member, I suppose if he had a car accident or he committed suicide or something like that, it's a lot easier to cover up versus 4 members. And then you've got the whole like when and where, and okay, I'm plotting out the murders here, but you get what I'm saying. Taking out one member, particularly like, I don't know, an overly popular member. And another kind of aspect to that theory is that not only having contact with the higher ups and not being able to face any repercussions for the hit that Elvis supposedly put out, he could effectively make it like an inside job. You know, they could cover it all up for him. And I suppose if we go back to the previous theory with the CIA being responsible, let's just combine those two theories. If the CIA are not wanting the Beatles to have like so much of a powerful influence, perhaps in like the wrong way and things like that, anarchy, all of that, then you've got Elvis here. The two could team up together. They both want the same outcome. Clean it all up. Elvis doesn't go to prison. Done. I mean, I don't think it's likely. I'm just giving you the theories as I found them. So the next part of the whole Paul is dead theory, the cover of Abbey Road. Even if you don't listen to the Beatles, but your parents did, or whatever, Nan, Gramp, whoever, you would have seen this album cover. It's probably one of the most, well, in my opinion, one of their most famous album covers. This theory, they think that John Lennon being dressed in white is the minister. Then we've got George, the gravedigger, and Ringo, the undertaker, leaving Paul as the corpse. And the reason they think that, they think it's kind of like subliminal messaging, and the actual footsteps of Paul in that shot, he seems to be out of step with the other members of the band. Not only that, he's not wearing shoes. So straight away people are like, wow, this is this William guy straight up saying, hi, I'm an imposter, I'm not actually Paul McCartney. I know, it's a lot. Funeral procession. For the old Paul's funeral, with new Paul acting as Paul. There's a lot of Pauls in this, it's very confusing. We've had Elvis, we've had the CIA, we've had body doubles, we've had hidden messages, we've had lyrics played backwards. Now we've got the devil. I know, I'm not making this up, like 100%. These are theories. If you want to go look, they're out there on the internet. You'll find them. Next theory, next kind of part of this, next facet, shall I say, of this stone. So people think that Paul McCartney made a deal with the devil. He made a deal with the devil for his success within the Beatles, the money that he made out of it, the band's popularity, all of that. and it said that he made the deal with the devil, it was all done, side deal, and then for whatever reason, somehow maybe he Welshed on the terms of it, or the time period that he was given to do all of this in, or it was over. Devil took his life. That's how Paul McCartney died. Okay. Skeptics believe that the clues were placed around deliberately, and it could have been part of like a hoax, either set up by the band members themselves, the record company. We're not considering the fact that's if you believe that Paul McCartney's dead. I don't think he is, by the way. I've googled. I didn't need to Google, but I double checked. He's alive. I knew he was alive. Skeptics who don't believe that Paul McCartney's dead, I guess you could say that I'm one of those. All these little clues, all these little things with the lyrics being played the wrong way round. Not that the actual band themselves told people to play the lyrics the wrong way round, but the OTP, the funeral thing, everything, it was all supposed to be part of a metaphysical hoax. So it would either be the band themselves that decided to do this, you know, they wanted to gain, they wanted to stay in the spotlight. They wanted people following this little trail of breadcrumbs that didn't lead to anywhere, because it meant that the eyes were still on them. They still had the popularity, they were still sustaining their popularity, if you like. And others believe it could just simply have been done by the record label, and it was an entire stunt that the record label had cooked up for the exact same reasons, to make money. There's a man by the name of Fred Labor, and he wrote an article regarding Paul's death. I say death, and he mentioned a few pointers that we've talked about in today's video, the whole clues and all of that. And then after that article got out, he basically said he was shocked that his satirical allegations were taken so seriously by people, like people actually believed it. He didn't start it, but he didn't kind of help not start it, if that makes sense. He didn't help the entire situation, and people believed him, as well as this other guy, this DJ Russ Gibbs. He was part of it, and he actually took his statement back. The article that he wrote, he took it all back, and he said none of it was true, and I really didn't expect to get it this far. Yeah. So that's kind of why, not only for the obvious, like seeing Paul McCartney's presence in the media and things like that, but that's why I don't believe. I just think that gives skeptics more to go on than it does for the conspirators that feel like they have everything to go on. And I think it's true what people say as well, that when you're talking about conspiracy theories and things like that, and you're looking into it, when you're trying to make dots connect that just don't connect, that just aren't there. But in all seriousness, I think if you stare at something long enough and hard enough and you really want it to be true, you'll start seeing things that aren't there. And personally, I feel like that is the case with this case. If you thought that was the last time that we were going to be mentioning Elvis during this video, you were wrong. Yeah, people think that Elvis Presley is alive. Now, the story as it goes that was put out in the media, and the story that most of you know today, stories that will be the story that's in history books, articles, everything surrounding Elvis Presley's death, dead on the toilet, pants around his ankles, and now he's buried in Graceland. Or not. Let's get into the theories. 2 hours after the star died, it was reported that a man looking remarkably like the king himself bought a ticket for Buenos Aires and used the name John Burroughs. This was a pseudonym that Elvis actually used quite a few times when travelling around, particularly to kind of avoid, I don't know, the press, die-hard fans, things like that. He just didn't, if he was in some kind of like decent looking disguise and he got away with people not actually clocking him, then that was the pseudonym that he went underneath, was John Burroughs. He went to the headquarters of the FBI and announced that he wished to become an informant of show business performers and became a member of the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. He flew, this is where the theory comes in, what people think happened and his faking his death. So, he flew out to the USA on special State Department papers, and people speculate that it was the king himself who was fleeing from the public and went on to live his secret life. So when I was looking into this, apparently, so say, and this isn't a conspiracy, this is information that I found when researching for this video and looking into everything. Apparently Elvis did actually try to fake his own death before. I am putting on a lot of foundation tonight. Apparently he was tired of not being able to receive proper medical treatment at hospitals, and he'd be falling over diehard fans everywhere he went. You know, he was easily recognisable and people were just getting in his way, and all the poor guy needed was just some medical attention to be able to see a doctor. So he'd set up a deceptive shooting previously. I will look into this, and if it's real, we'll put real up here in writing. I tried to look into this. I couldn't find a whole lot, but I'm sure if I dug a little bit deeper, I just didn't really feel like it was 100% relevant. I was just really honestly wanted to give you the funny bits of information. Well, not funny. People dying isn't funny, but you know what I mean. The ludicrous conspiracy theories is very, in my words that I used in my previous video, very tinfoil hat weary. I wanted those kind of facts for you for this video. So they believe that because he'd basically set up he tried to, you know, set up a fake death before, it was entirely plausible that he would do it again this time round, only he went around with the pseudonym of John Burroughs and yeah, just managed it that way. It's also said that Elvis lost a lot of money from being wrapped up in bad deals with the mafia, and he lost out quite a bit. And there is these tinfoil hat wearers, they think that he teamed up with the FBI to become an informant and help expose gangsters, get them a bit more kind of like inside information, and basically put an end to that kind of thing, like gang activity. People believe that by doing this he can ensure his own protection, and the FBI would help him to fake his own death and ensure his concealment, and basically being part of a very unusual, but how some would see it, a plausible witness protection program. The next part of it. Elvis was reportedly spotted working at backward burger joints across America, literally making fries, making burgers. People said they saw him. And a lot of people, you know, that initially they'd say, oh, you know, it's like an Elvis lookalike, it's like his doppelganger. And on a second look, it was actually him. Maybe he was hiding in plain sight, and that was his way of doing it, you know, go and flip some burgers. If you want to talk about people seeing Elvis, I'd say maybe you'd have to be a diehard fan, kind of refer to their love of Elvis and his music as a bit of a religion. They would take what they call a pilgrimage to Graceland, to where he's buried, and there's been visions of people seeing Elvis in burnt toast and things like that, and apparently he manifested himself to them plenty of times, like in a godlike, Jesus-like vision. Okay. Oh, bitch, I forgot about this one. I'm going to have to read it because it's so fucking insane. It's so insane. I'm going to have to read it just so that I get all of it right and all of it to you. There's people that believe he was part of the New World Order in attempts to start a new worldly religion. People believe that he was cryogenically frozen. Yes, I said that. Cryogenically frozen. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. His body was cryogenically frozen and it would have been brought back. That's the whole New World thing. They froze his body and they were going to bring him back to, I don't know, preach and give the lessons and people learn from him. Whilst digging up theories about Elvis's death for this video, I read that apparently the dude was buried in a £900 coffin, which isn't the weird part, because Elvis was a bigger man, a man of bigger proportions at the time of his death. He had a lot of problems with his health and his weight and issues like that. Not the £900 coffin part was strange, the fact that it had a built-in air chilling unit. I'm not an undertaker, I don't know a lot about burials and things like that. I really don't want to, if I'm honest, but I did find the concept of a coffin being fitted with an air chilling unit quite strange, like I'm not gonna lie, a bit weird. Apparently that's not part of the theory though, that's not what people found strange. The thing that people found strange was the fact that they managed, so when he died, the day after he died, I'll post the date here, so his family had this coffin built for him and he was buried in it the day after. When people die suddenly, you need a couple of days to get everything together, you know, eulogies, funeral, burial, flowers, wake, everything like that. It's you know, a lot of organisation for a very sad party. I'm sorry to say it like that, but those are just my views. And people found it absolutely bonkers that this coffin was ready to go for the day after. A coffin with a built-in air chilling unit. It's not already weird that he was buried in this coffin with a built-in air chilling unit, like aircon for corpses. But yeah, it's the fact that he had such a unique casket that he was buried in, and literally the day after he passed away. Don't know about you, that is a little bit weird. A little bit weird, this one. One of the strange facts is that he didn't have many demands and wishes for after he passed away, but one of his one main wish that he told his family was that he wanted to be buried next to his mother, and it didn't happen. He wasn't buried next to his mother. So they were able to give him this fancy spangled 900-pound coffin with aircon and God knows what else, but they couldn't bury him next to his mum. It's kind of a bit shit, that. When digging for information, I also found that Elvis's middle name is spelled Aaron with one A versus, I guess, the more traditional spelling of the name Aaron, usually with two A's at the start. It was supposed to be quite special to his family. Like, his dad had that name. I don't know if it was his dad's first name or middle name. However, it was very unique to the family, so say. And when Elvis was born, his middle name Aaron was spelled incorrectly on his birth certificate. And his dad went to extreme measures to get that changed and modified, because he just didn't want it on the birth certificate like that. The weird thing is that on Elvis's headstone, his middle name is spelled incorrectly with two A's. Now, I guess if people are going to go, oh, that's really weird, over it, I guess maybe if you wanted to be really tinfoil hat weary, you could turn around and say, well, it wouldn't be the real Elvis buried there then, would it? Kind of like, not like an alias, like a pseudonym like John Barrows, but like a fake headstone. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to fake, I'm not advising this, please don't do this. I don't. If you're going to fake your death, you are going to have a fake headstone. Or you're going to find a way for somebody to do that for you, or assume that your family would do that for you after you passed away. But I guess by putting it there, like, not necessarily leaving a clue, but it could have been like a careless thought. Like, if it was quite a rush thing, like if he really did want to get out of the public limelight and all of that and just run away, then it could have been just like a really rushed thing, and what's the word? Like a detail that was overlooked. But even then, I think if I was in a rush, God, this is horrible to think about. Even if I was in a rush and I was making my own headstone for like my fake death, I still know how to spell my middle name. Like most people, I would think a lot of people know how to spell their middle name. The next one I'm going to be talking about is probably more mental, or maybe on a par mental, is the conspiracy that Avril Lavigne, as we know her, is dead. If you've looked at any other conspiracy channels here on YouTube, or you've Googled conspiracy theories, I can almost guarantee that at some point in time, Avril Lavigne's face has popped up. And that's because there are some crazy people out there in Brazil that think she's dead. There's a very dedicated website to the fact that she's, the Avril Lavigne that we see isn't the real Avril Lavigne, and that she's died, and their reasons for thinking that, and all the information that they feel like they've gathered to say that it's justified that Avril Lavigne's dead. The album title, Living Under the Skin, they claim that it's basically symbolic of a doppelganger / body double, stunt double replacement of Avril Lavigne. We'll get on to that. So if you note, the name Avril Lavigne was written in black, representing mourning the singer, and the new Avril Lavigne is in black with a red cross on her shoulder. The name Under My Skin is in red. The colours on the cover seem to suggest mourning and blood. I have a hard time with that one. I really do. And do you know why? I have, or did have, don't have CDs anymore, but let's just go through my Spotify, okay? I Prevail, album cover, red and black. It's kind of, my iPhone, for example, red and black. A lot of it does it. I guess if you want to look at it from a symbolistic way, but if that's what they have to go off of to believe, like if that was at the very start of the article that I read, was the lettering of the album cover. You know what I mean? It's just a bit tinfoil hat weary. These people believe that Avril Lavigne died in 2003 after her album Let Go. If you were a teenage girl when that album was around, or even a young girl, don't even tell me that you didn't own it, or at least listen to it. We all did. Guilty as charged. So people believe that she was replaced by a body double of the name Melissa Vandella. Picture's going to be here. There was a picture that went up and you'll see the shady little caption at the top of the picture that was shared on Twitter. She has the name Melissa written across the back of her hand, which I believe is written in eyeliner. We're not too sure who Melissa is. I don't know if it bears any relevance to any of her lyrics, but I'm guessing if it did, these people would have pulled it up because shit, they were even looking into colours of the album. Apparently she had online presence in the early 2000s, but then everything, like, I've tried to find her. You better believe that I tried to find her for the sake of this video. But apparently, since the release of Let Go, she just completely disappeared. She was just gone. Yeah, I mean, I tried to find the girl. I couldn't find her anywhere. And apparently, she vanished after the release of the album Let Go. And people think that's viable enough to believe that, because I don't know. I even tried to find pictures to see if they looked similar. I thought I found what was a picture of her, but I think it's actually a picture of Avril that's come... It's basically like a source from a website. You know, when you go Google Images and then you click on the website. I really don't think I could actually find any images of this Melissa Vandella. There are people that believe that she had hidden messages in her lyrics, a lot like the whole Beatles conspiracy, and... I mean, she was kind of like, I wouldn't say angsty teenager. I mean, she was 19 when her career started. And I know a lot of her lyrics kind of do point that way. They do sound quite like doom and gloom and sad. But I honestly don't think it was unusual. And I don't know if it was like justified to believe that she died or she wanted to, you know, end her life or anything like that. Like, I just think this theory is a little bit much. People had talked about her appearance as well. And they said that... Again, I almost sound like I'm angry talking about this. Don't take my emotions that I'm displaying right now as anger. I'm really not angry about it. If anything, it's funny. People said that her style, so her sense of style changed. And that she just dressed different. She didn't dress like the moody teenager that we knew before from the whole Let Go era. Yeah, her style changed. She didn't look like her anymore because of the clothes she wore. So that means she's dead. Probably on the more credible side, there are people that note the fact that her facial features look different and that she has new marks. She appears to have new marks on her body that weren't there before. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking the same as me. You can quite easily debunk that, right? She was 19 at the time. Fast forward quite a few years later, her nose and her lips look different. What does that tell you? She's probably had surgery. Yeah, and if she's got marks and scars and moles and things like that on her body, they happen. I have new scars on my body that I did not have 5 years ago because I'm clumsy as hell and I scar really easily. But you get what I'm saying? These marks that people saw on her. Going back to her appearance changing as well, like her nose and her lips, it is a subtle change in us as we grow, but our faces do change as we age, like our actual structure of our face. It may not be a lot, but I know that I look so different to how I did, say, when I was, I don't know, 10 years old. Our faces do change, and I don't think, you know, I just think people ran away with that one a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm back and you can probably see that I've advanced a little bit in my makeup look. I've just literally, you've not missed out on much. I've done some eyeliner and some shadow underneath. The next one we're going to talk about is Jim Morrison, and this kind of goes in lots of different angles and it is quite confusing, so bear with me, and it's probably the heaviest out of the theories that we've talked about. Jim Morrison died in a bathtub in Paris at the age of 21 in 1971. So no one that knew him particularly well, apart from his girlfriend, who I believe found him dead, had seen his dead body. So his keyboardist and friend, Ray Manzarek, didn't believe that he died. And he said there were a lot of strange circumstances around his death, and the whole thing with never seeing his body. I never saw Jim Morrison dead. Allegedly, he believed the possibility that his doctor could have been paid to forge his death certificate, and basically, or bribed to do it. And he believed that Jim wanted to escape his life, leave the public eye and just be done with it. And that really wouldn't be the first time that I've heard about that to do with like other celebrities before. It gets a bit weird because her name, so Pamela Carson, she was listed as the girlfriend that found his body, but she's also listed as his wife, and it gets really confusing, so try to keep up with me. She stated that she believed he died from an accidental overdose by snorting heroin that he mistook for cocaine. I've looked at other sources that say he didn't want to use needles and he had a phobia of them, they both did, and actively they chose to snort the heroin instead of injecting it. There's another girl whose name is Marianne Faithful. I'm not too sure how she ties into the star and his partner, but she says that her drug dealer was responsible for his death because he dropped off the batch of heroin to him. He was a drug dealer, and that batch of heroin was the batch of heroin that killed him. According to Conspiracy Files by David Southwell and Sean Twist, published in 2004, Pamela Carson, who on Google and Wikipedia is listed as his wife, she told a journalist working in the United Press that Jim was staying at a private clinic outside Paris to recover from illness. This was over a week after the musician had died. So you can look at it from this perspective. Is she saying that because she's aiding him in escaping from the life that he wanted out from? Is she saying that because there's something weird surrounding his death, i.e. the way he died, or how he died, or how he, came to die, that kind of a thing? I think it's really odd that she would say that if she knew that he died. She was the one who found his body, and that to me is, looking at this loosely as somebody who enjoys conspiracy theories, when I hear that bit of information, but I also hear that she was the one that was beside his dead body whilst waiting for emergency services to arrive, I can see a little bit of a conspiracy there. Because if she thought that his death hadn't made it out to the media and then told this journalist, oh no, he's fine, he's at this clinic in such and such a place and he's recovering, maybe she aided him and maybe she helped him in getting away. She was part of all of it. She knew it, she was in on it, and she told the journalist a different thing to what had actually happened. So it's a little bit patchy and it's a bit weird, and that's why I can see a certain level of credibility within this conspiracy theory. One thing to note as well is that, bearing in mind that Jim Morrison per se died of a heroin overdose, there was never an autopsy performed on his body. So that is quite strange. I would say if somebody died or their death was related to drugs in any kind of a way, you would just assume that an autopsy would be performed. It's just a bit, I suppose these were the 70s, but I mean, even then you would assume that an autopsy had been performed. His body would have been impossible to exhume as well, so you'd need the permission and consent from his family to do this. So say you were a detective or whatever, and you had reason to want to exhume his body, you would need their permission. But you wouldn't just need their permission, you would need the consent of 7 French cardinals who can each demand a right of veto. We're going to put up here what veto means. They are basically known for disagreeing regularly on the type of matter, and it's pretty much a case for all exhumations of Père Lachaise, I think that's how you say it, Père Lachaise Cemetery. And in early years, Jim had speculated that he would end up being buried there when his time would come, which is a bit odd. Talking about, I think I'm going to end up here, unless you'd planned to, or you'd asked, I'd like to be buried at this specific cemetery, maybe your family are there, or your partner or whatnot. It's a bit odd to be like, I think I'm going to be buried there one day, and that place is known for denying exhumations. Not that he said that, but you get where I'm going with that. Jim had an intensive interest in witchcraft, so there are people that believe that his body was basically abducted, potentially by like witches of this group, and his body was used as a ritualistic sacrifice, and basically he was going to be a living representation of Dionysus, which is the Greek god of fertility and wine. That one's a bit out there and a bit far, but then again, quite a lot of these theories in this video have been a bit out there and a bit far, let's be honest. The next part mentions the FBI. I know, shock horror, right? Talking about a celebrity death conspiracy and the FBI or the CIA comes up. Apparently, when he spent time in the US, Jim Morrison had the FBI keeping tabs on him. And there are report files and things that basically have notes that said that Jim Morrison was known for provoking chaos. People who want to go for the FBI conspiracy theory on this one and his death believe that they didn't want him to incite rebellion and drug use amongst the younger generation. Obviously, he was known for his drug habits and things like that, and they just really didn't want that rubbing off on the youth. It would cause many problems, and I think that's reasonable, and I think it's not reasonable for taking him out, if they killed him, but reasonable for not wanting that impression on younger adults that idolised him and looked up to him. It's also speculated that Tupac was, I know, I can hear you all going, huh? It's also speculated that Tupac was another celebrity whose death was staged. The guy that theorised this, I think it was the opinion of one guy who maybe wrote this post that I read, but he said that everywhere Tupac went, he always wore a stab-proof vest or a bulletproof vest. I'm guessing like Kevlar or something like that, like what the police wear. And it just wouldn't be logical for him not to have been wearing it at the time that he got shot. I mean, I personally would call that like really bad sod's law. I think there's a possibility that he wouldn't have been wearing one. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable. But to this guy, what's important, this guy and his theory, he's like, always wore a vest, couldn't have been shot. So it's believed that he made a getaway to Cuba to get away from celebrity limelight. Heard that one before during this video. For those who think it's credible, go by the fact that the shooters that shot Tupac were never found, and the man who cremated him retired 2 days after Tupac's cremation and funeral. And that concludes today's video. I hope you enjoyed this and found it entertaining. I mean, no disrespect to any celebrities that are believed by terms to be dead. I have found it interesting, and I hope that you did. Some of the theories, like devil and like the devil killing Paul McCartney, Elvis flipping burgers, some of them were a bit much. But some of the second to last one, the Jim Morrison one, I really do think there is more to that. I do think it's a bit strange, and particularly I just can't get over the comments that were made by his partner. I think that's a little bit, it's odd. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'm really excited for the up and coming content I've got for you guys, and if you've made it to the end, just thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. Every day that I see those views go up, it's really exciting, and I just really enjoy doing this, so the fact that other people watch it and enjoy it too means a lot to me. You could do me a huge favour by hitting the subscribe button down below. If you hit that button, it means that all my new content will appear on your newsfeed. You might even get notifications through to your YouTube app. I'm also on Instagram as well, so if you'd like to follow me, I do post pictures up there. My handle is @conspire_with.me. I hope you all have a really good week, you stay safe, and you're excited about getting back out into the world and trying to resume life again. Thanks guys, bye.